Wakey, wakey, hands off, Snakey. I know how it goes. You had a little too much to drink, and, the soldier is at attention because he had nothing to do last night because you somehow botched it.
So now you have to drag your sorry ass out of bed, try and take your morning leak through that thing.
Good luck with that. Talk about painting the walls. Yeah, that's gonna need some massive amounts of pine sol. Then once you settle down there a little bit,
get your coffee going, pop the aspirin. You know the drill.
Greasy food, yep. And of course, the weekend edition of Sports Frenzy 2.0. He's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev. And we'll get you through this like we always do.
Taping here on September the 13th. This, of course, hits Saturday morning. Your Saturday morning hangover cure on the 16th. We got some fun stuff for you this week, including we're getting close to the end of concert season. Now, we're talking about maybe extending
a little bit. There's a couple of things down the line. We're going to wait until things are solidified before we let you know.
But right now, as it stands, we've got one more rock and roll weekend coming up next weekend.
Yep. I'm doing the Friday, Saturday. You've got the Saturday.
Yep. But we have to recap last Saturday's Rock and Roll Festival, which included two phenomenal performances and one in the middle that could have been one of the worst of all time.
Oh my God, pathetic. We'll get to that one. Yep. Or should we start with that one? No, let's go in order.
I was thinking about switching it up, but I'm with you. I get it. Let's stay with the tradition. Let's go right through in order.
We got to start off positive, then it can come. Fuck it. Let's get the middle one out of the way and just.
All right. Let's start off. The show last Saturday night at the Ruoff Music Center in Noblesville, Indiana was Rival Sons, Interpol, and Smashing Pumpkins. Now, you know damn well if you've listened to this podcast, you know how we feel about Rival Sons.
Woohoo!
Didn't know what to expect from Interpol. Didn't know what to expect from Smashing Pumpkins after this long, drawn-out review we've had to go through with the 3 acts, the 3 CDs of Autumn, which we were obviously not impressed with.
No, very disappointed.
So let's start with the negative.
Negative.
Interpol, I don't understand what the fucking appeal of Interpol is.
Why did they get the middle spot for an hour? They had 0 stage presence. They were remedial musically.
Yep.
I mean, they were the band that played remedial chords and just stood at the microphones. Mumbling. No presence whatsoever.
And I swear I saw a couple times on the cameras, the drummer looked like he literally was shitting blood. He was just so unhappy.
Yeah, he's looked completely tense, was not loose at all.
No, and like Dave said, they got an hour, and it was arguably...
It was worse than Jamie fucking Johnson a few years back.
You're saying that? You're actually going to say that?
At least he had some presence on stage where he interacted with the crowd.
Because you were not saying that after the show. You were saying you thought Interpol was still better.
No, I can't say Interpol was better. It's very minuscule, the difference.
But you're going to say Interpol was, oh my God.
Oh my God, Interpol was brutal. At least the crowd was into Jamie Johnson.
Right.
You think, all right, normally first band, everybody's settling in. Second band, they're up, they're getting into the show. Over 95% of the crowd was sitting and having conversations amongst themselves during Interpol. Very few people were into it. Very few people applauded at the end. It was just bad. Bad, bad, bad.
Yeah, and I heard at least one or two comments from some people on the
Everybody
lawn.
around us
Yeah.
was like, what the hell is this crap?
Yeah. So that's the bad. That is the bad. And unfortunately, yes, in the grand scheme of things, it takes away from the overall rating of the night. But of course, first off, we got the great Rival Sons for the second time in 18 months.
Yes. On their Dark Fighter tour, funny, they did not play any songs off the Dark Fighter album.
No. Now they played the new single from Lightbringer, which is coming out here soon. Sweet Life, which we talked about here recently.
But nothing from Dark Fighter, which was very surprising.
Yeah, and now, again, we got the opening act set list, just like we did early in 2022 when we saw them open for Greta Van Fleet. Couple songs that they played in both. They played Feral Roots and, of course, Pressure and Time.
Right.
But if you look at the set list, Feral Roots, they led off with that, the title track. Memphis Sun, very obscure song for them. Very obscure song.
They pulled it off well.
Yep.
It wasn't their norm.
That goes all the way back to before. I've been doing my research on the catalog. I'm basically going to build myself up to having the entire catalog. That's how much I love them. So Before the Fire is the album. Of course, Pressure and Time, title track from that album. Sweet Life, again, Lightbringer. And then 3 of the final 4 songs were off the Great Western Valkyrie album.
Yeah.
Open My Eyes, Where I've Been, and Secret. Now, Where I've Been, lead singer gave one of the few times he really talks to the audience.
Yeah, not a lot of interaction. He definitely has the presence, bouncing around, moving, getting into it, doing the interaction while he's singing. But this was the time where he spoke to the crowd.
Yeah, explaining the lyrics for Where I've Been, talking about how the lyrics involved very personal experiences with a drug addict and a war veteran.
Yeah.
Now, in between all those, Torture was off the Rival Sons EP, was also featured on the soundtrack to the movie Real Steel. So very eclectic set list here to wind up the tour, because this was the last show of the tour.
Yeah.
So they went old school. They really went old school. Like you said, they did not play anything off the album that they were touring to promote.
Right. And we got our Dark Fighter shirts.
Yeah.
And we got no Dark Fighter songs. But that's all right.
Because they're still awesome.
Because they were still freaking awesome.
Yep. 50 minutes of Rival Sons. Still want more.
I want to see them as a headliner.
Yep. Just like we always say with Living Color.
Yeah.
Want to see them as a headliner. So then we've already talked about the middle.
So where do you put the Rival Sons set?
It's got to be 3.5. It's got to be
boom,
at least 3.5. I will say
Absolutely.
I was just a slight bit disappointed with no Dark Fighter.
Right.
But
it does not take away from their overall performance.
Their guitar
and the
player
guitarist is freaking incredible.
He was much more of a presence this time around than at the Greta Van Fleet show. They are just, it's unbelievable to me they've been around as long as they have. And they've never gotten the recognition they deserve. I mean, they've got a song in a freaking major car, truck commercial. So I know they're making money.
Yeah. They need more notoriety and recognition.
I think they are a band out of time, is what I think. I think if they had been around in the late 70s or early 80s, they would have been the biggest shit on the planet.
Yeah.
But because you can't gauge popularity by album sales or by streaming anymore, you know, it's just a mess. Road. It's just a mess. And I don't think it's a true gauge of the popularity of the band that they keep getting stuck in these opening slots.
Yeah.
No, really
they are much, much better than an opener.
Yes. So then we go to the headliner, which again, we weren't sure what we were going to get from the Smashing Pumpkins. We had never seen them before. We dallied with the idea on the last tour when they played, I believe, 20 Monroe Live.
Yeah.
But tickets were god-awful expensive for that because it was a more intimate show. And after Autumn, we did not know what we were going to get. I will tell you one thing that I noticed when they were setting the stage up that gave me a good vibe was that I did not see a keyboard set up anywhere on the stage.
There was no keyboard.
And then I'm thinking, okay, that tells me that maybe they're going to stay away from most of the stuff off of Autumn since that is so keyboard heavy.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they did. This was a face-melting, hard rock hour and 50 minutes that was magnificent.
2:15.
No, it was not 2:15. No, it was not. No, it was not. You're way
They
off.
started at...
No, it was not. No, it was not. They started at 9:10 and they ended at 11 o'clock precisely.
All right, whatever.
Trust me on that.
Okay. Anyway, they played straight through, no encore break, which we love.
Yeah, I know you appreciate that a lot. Dave is like the anti-encore guy.
Give me the extra song or two that you waste with the long monologue before the song that you walk off with.
Now, see, a smart band would stagger their breaks during the set.
Right.
Throw in a drum solo, throw in a guitar solo to give everybody enough time off where they don't have to take the egomaniacal encore break like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And Smashing Pumpkins, again, did it perfectly.
They did. It was a hard-rocking, fantastic set.
Yes. And this is the true, to me, the true test of whether a concert is phenomenal or not. Now, you can go see a band like Van Halen. I go see Van Halen back in the day. I know all the songs. They're not going to fool me.
Right.
Smashing Pumpkins, I don't know their entire catalog. If you can keep me engaged and interested with songs I've never heard before, this is a great show.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did.
Absolutely agree on
Highlights early on, I think you and I'll agree on this.
They're once in a lifetime.
They came out third song with this wild, bass-heavy version of Talking Heads' Once in a Lifetime that was just freaking
hardcore.
Yeah. It was great. It was absolutely great.
Fun. It was so damn cool. Billy Corgan and company did not disappoint.
No.
At all.
Then now, of course, we're skipping around. I'm not going to go through the entire set list. We got, 21 songs the entire night.
Yeah.
Bullet with Butterfly Wings a little earlier than we thought we'd get it.
Yeah, that was kind of like halfway.
Considering the tour was called The World is a Vampire.
Yeah.
One of the key lyrics in that song.
That's how it starts out.
And they played it like halfway through.
Surprising.
The Manfred Mann cover of Hubble Bubble Toil and Trouble was
my God.
Killer.
That was so awesome.
You could tell Billy Corgan was just having fun. Just
you could tell the smile on his face.
Yep.
He was enjoying this show.
And of course, they set the set list up just right so that they saved the best for last, even though they'd already burned Bullet with Butterfly Wings earlier. The last three songs were 1979, Cherub Rock, and Zero.
Boom.
Towards the end, we got the two tracks off of Autumn, but they picked
two good tracks.
Exactly. Two of the harder rocking tracks with Empires, and then, of course, Beguiled, where we got professional wrestling.
That was awesome. And the kids, the little kids come out dancing, the boy and girl.
Yep.
And then you got the male and female wrestlers coming out. Oh, my God.
If you don't know, Billy Corgan is heavily invested financially in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's why you had that little interlude. But again,
it was just a great show. Good interaction from the band with the crowd.
yeah, James Eha with his deadpan.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
This is great.
You guys are an incredible audience.
Yeah.
It was fun. Thoroughly enjoyable. I loved
very
this.
good. Much better. Much better than I expected.
I couldn't have hoped for anything close to this.
Definitely, again, if we could get Interpol out.
This was a top-notch show.
Yes. Yeah, I would say another strong 3.5.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Frenzies for this as well as for Rival Sons.
Yeah.
What do we give Interpol?
Half for showing up.
Yeah, that's about right. Half a frenzy for showing up.
Yeah, it was.
What was it you said early on? They should be arrested for impersonating a rock band.
Yes.
After about 2 or 3 songs.
After the second song, they should be arrested for impersonating a rock band.
That about
sums
it up perfectly. But again, this is what makes going to concerts great, is the different weird up and down roller coaster experience you might have.
Yep, like you never know what you're gonna wind up with.
And I don't know about you, but we're watching Rival Sons, and it's like I'm still looking around going, people still aren't getting this band.
No.
Not enough people are.
Because it was...
More people were into them than, of course, Interpol.
Right.
But I'm still like, you people don't
just
get this
aren't
band.
Getting it. Yeah.
Even Mrs. C doesn't seem like she likes him as much as we do.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
She likes him, but not to the degree that you and I do.
Yeah.
There's just that connection that they made with us.
Yeah. Where it was just like, when we saw them with Greta Van Fleet, it was like, this band is different. This band is great. This band is special.
I want more.
Yes. So, and I'm sure down the road we will get more.
We can only hope.
So let's move on to new music. From an old band, the Rolling Stones.
We get their new song, Angry.
We talked about the new album, Hackney Diamonds, coming out in a couple months.
Yep. You know what? I was pleasantly surprised with this one.
I thought it was good. The problem I really had with it was as a song, it's very repetitive. There's not really much there.
Lyrically, it is. The music has a good groove to it that you can get into.
Yep.
But it was much better than I had expected out of it.
I would say it was a little bit better than what I expected.
I had a very low bar.
I think Mick, you can kind of hear the changing in his voice as he gets older, as he's kind of straining a little bit, and they're trying to rein him in to
don't do the higher, keep it in more of the lower tones. And I thought that worked really well for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine. My initial thought after the first time I listened to it was in a classic Stones era album from the mid 70s through the early 80s, this would have been maybe the 6th or 7th best song on the album.
Probably.
Which isn't necessarily bad.
But then as you get later, it gets elevated up a little bit more.
Because they've put out some bad albums.
They put out some trash.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it 2.5 frenzies.
Solid 2.5.
Okay. All right. I have to apologize. I still look back at my youth.
Your youth.
And there are certain performers that, and you too, you get it too. Billy Squier will always have a special place in my heart. All the hair metal bands, and Bryan Adams. Bryan Adams, I remember
He's
Cuts
got-
Like a Knife and Reckless were two of the more important albums for me
Yeah,
growing
there's a
up.
lot of good stuff on there.
And then, of course, when he did the crappy-ass Robin Hood ballad, it took a big downturn. And ever since then, it's been very, very hit and miss with him.
Yeah.
And then I heard, oh, he's got 2 new songs out. So let's review those,
Gee,
Dave. Let's listen to those.
And they are on the Office Race soundtrack.
Yeah, if you don't know what Office Race is
Welcome to the club.
Is a made-for-TV or streaming Comedy Central movie. Starring, oh God, who is in it? Just a bunch of Joel McHale is in it.
Yeah, not that great.
I mean, just B-listers.
Yeah.
And somehow Bryan Adams gets roped into doing 2 original songs for this Comedy Central movie.
Yep.
And we kind of knew when we heard the first title.
You're awesome. That you would have thought would have been on the Barbie soundtrack.
Yeah. And You're Awesome is exactly as bad as you would think it would be.
Yeah, it's not. No.
It is not a good song at all. It is wussy. It is
lame.
Yes. A weak one frenzy.
1.5.
Oh, you're so much nicer.
Yeah,
than I
I
am.
know.
I just didn't like it at all. The second song was better.
This one, Sometimes You Win Before You Lose. This had a Tom Petty vibe to it.
I think what it needed, again, we talk about this a lot with some of these songs, crank it up a little bit.
Yeah,
give it a little bit of a harder edge, like the old Bryan Adams from Reckless. Get the producer from Reckless to crank this up a little bit.
This song,
the
had
lyrics
potential.
are interesting. The lyrics are interesting.
The bass line of the music is there, but it needed a more of a hard edge to it.
Yeah, it needed an extra punch
to kick
to it
into that next gear.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one definitely was better than You're Awesome. You're awesome. God.
That was just, no.
Didn't somebody just hear that title and go, this is what you're going to do?
Really?
You're going to do this?
It's no secret to my success, that's for sure.
So Sometimes You Lose Before You Win. I will give it a strong 2.
Strong 2 is where it needs to be because it lacked that extra punch. You would have
Which would have bumped it up to 2.5 or 3.
It could have been a 3 if Bryan Adams gave it his all.
Yeah, both of these songs in the end sound like he's just waiting to cash the paycheck.
It's a B-list movie soundtrack, and he put a B-list effort into it.
Yeah.
But he had something with Sometimes You Win that could have been a really damn good song.
I think so too. I do think that one had potential. Then, of course, Dave came up with an interesting new band.
Yep, The Bites. Their song Heather Leather. Kind of a 80s hair throwback.
Yep, definitely is.
Musically and lyrically.
The only thing is, I think it reminded me more of a Enough's Enough for Faster Pussycat more than it did a Rat or a Motley Crue.
Yeah, and Enough's Enough's not a bad comparison. I liked Enough's Enough more so than Faster Pussycat.
Yeah. And I listened to I think there's 3 songs out from the new album. This was the best of the 3.
It was by far.
I'm kind of torn on the rating for this because I didn't dislike it. I thought it reminds me of the Bryan Adams song in many respects that we just reviewed. Not in the fact that it needed to be jacked up in terms of energy, but there's something
there was
there.
Something that was just missing that could have.
I think maybe the lead singer is not strong enough. That's the only thing I come up with is the lead singer didn't.
he didn't have the chops.
He didn't have a David Lee Roth, Bret Michaels, Vince Neil type of swagger to him that the song needed to really push it through. Lyrically good, musically good.
Vocally,
you need that cocksure. If we're going to go back to the 80s,
you need the guy
cocksure guy in the front.
We're talking Heather
and
Leather,
this is why
and
I'm talking
getting
about
in Heather's leather.
And this is again why I'm talking about bands like Enough's Enough or Faster Pussycat, where
they
didn't
have
that lead singer who really could push them to the next level, like the truly great bands.
Right.
So I will give Heather Leather a strong 2 frenzies.
There we go. It was an attempt, something a little different.
No, we're always trying to find new music. Always trying to find new music. And of course, we're going to do that again here. As we look ahead for next week, we've got 3 new songs from Jimmy Buffett. Of course, the late, great Jimmy Buffett, right after he passes.
He had a new album in the works that was coming out.
Yep. Yeah, this
was already slated.
This is not a money grab.
No.
It was already polished, done, produced, engineered, ready to go.
It was lined up for a November release regardless.
Right. Equal Strain on All Parts is out November the 3rd. The first 3 singles are out now. We'll review those for you next week. Like My Dog, Bubbles Up, and My Gummy Just Kicked In.
We will also have the Alice Cooper full album review for you.
Road. Yep, Road will be on the slate for next week as we take a week off from the live stuff. And then I have always been a really big Brian Setzer fan when he is not doing the Brian Setzer Orchestra, whether it's at the Stray Cats or on his own. I rediscovered an old album of his first solo album, actually, last month. Bought it on MP3, burned a copy for myself, been listening to it in the car. The Knife Feels Like Justice. Phenomenal, phenomenal album that I had missed listening to for 20 years. And then I see that he's got a new album coming out. And it's not with the Brian Setzer Orchestra. The new album coming out this weekend will be out as you listen to this.
Yep.
Check it out on Spotify. The Devil Always Collects. Dave and I are going to review.
Gotta love that album title.
Dave and I are going to review one of the first 3 singles. Just a little taste.
Yep.
And then down the road, we'll probably end up reviewing the full album.
Oh, we will definitely be reviewing the full album.
But the song that I heard that grabbed me, that caught my attention, which I think Dave will love, you will love, is Girl on the Billboard. Check out Girl on the Billboard. We will review that for you next weekend. So 3 new Jimmy Buffett songs, new Brian Setzer, new Alice Cooper album for you next week in the music section here on your Saturday morning hangover cure. One last little tidbit to talk about real quick. I alluded to this on our regular sports edition, load management in the NBA. I think we're seeing something like this creep into rock and roll now, because we have had now Pearl Jam postpone a show this past weekend at Noblesville, our place, our home base. Aerosmith, done for a month. Steven Tyler blew out his vocal cords. Bruce Springsteen, done for a month with a peptic ulcer. Guns N' Roses canceled the show due to illness. Metallica postponed a show due to COVID. Skid Row today just announced their entire slate of October shows will be pushed back to March of next year because of their new lead singer having immune deficiency issues.
Good Lord, what the hell is going on?
The problem is, especially when we're talking about Pearl Jam, yes, it's personal to us because it's at our venue, our place we go to. They canceled at the last possible minute. People were already in line to get on the lawn. People were already buying merch when they announced the cancellation.
People had arrived on site before noon to start lining up. They canceled at 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, this stuff needs to stop.
And I'm glad I am not a fan and nixed going because we would have just gotten down there and missed it.
When your day of dealing with international intrigue is over and you've settled down in your Aston Martin, call up Sports Frenzy 2.0 on your phone or smart car stereo. Every Thursday, Kev Dave will take your mind off the megalomaniac who just had a laser pointed at your genitals with the best sports criticism around. And don't forget to listen to the weekend edition every Saturday so you can plan out your entertainment options with the femme fatale of your choice. Grab a martini, shaken, not stirred, and check out Frenzy, Sports Frenzy 2.0.
All right, segment 2 of your weekend hangover cure from Sports Frenzy 2.0 on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy 2.0, baby.
Otherwise known as iHeartRadio. Welcome to your Saturday morning hangover cure, segment 2, with your Uncle Dave and your Uncle Kev here on September the 16th, taping on the 13th.
Yep, we need to wrap up the Pearl Jam concert cancellation.
The whole thing.
The whole thing was just bad form.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say there's a conspiracy theory out there, but I find it very, very odd that we've got all these major acts all of a sudden coming down with all these issues. Now, obviously, in the case of Aerosmith, if Steven Tyler's bleeding from his vocal cords,
then you can't have a show.
But the whole GNR thing with an illness, the Pearl Jam thing with an illness, and they all happen within a week or two of each other. Bruce Springsteen all of a sudden has a peptic ulcer that's going to knock him out for a month. And again, they've got your money already. This is my big point about this. It's like, again, my analogy to load management in the NBA. They've already sold the tickets to the game. And at the last minute, LeBron James doesn't want to play. Damian Lillard doesn't want to play. Giannis Antetokounmpo doesn't want to play. Now it seems like it's bleeding into the concert industry where somebody's got, oh, I can't play tonight. But we've already got the gates open. We've already sold a couple $1,000 worth of drinks and T-shirts. And we've already had them pay for parking in some places. It's kind of the same thing. If you want to go with baseball, it's kind of the same thing as letting everybody come in, sit in their seats, drink, eat, and then calling the game due to weather after an hour before the players even get on the field. I'm just predicting. My prediction is this is going to get worse before it gets better.
God, I hope you're wrong.
And we're going to see somebody's going to have to step in. And whether it's the government, but somebody's going to have to say, you need to cancel a show 24 hours before you're supposed to take the stage. Otherwise, you figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, because we would have gotten down there long about the time that it was canceled. I'm not a fan to begin with, and you and Mrs. C tried to convince me to go.
I'm glad.
And I refused to budge. I did not want to sit through a show that I did not want to see. And if I would have caved, I would have gone abso-frickin-lutely nuclear.
Yeah. Well, the night before at the Smashing Pumpkins show, when we were sitting down eating dinner, and Mrs. C said, well, they've canceled the Fast Pass.
Right.
With our lawn passes, we had a Fast Pass where we could also go in early.
Yeah, a couple minutes before everybody else, we got our prime spots.
On the lawn.
Yeah.
And they had canceled that for Pearl Jam. So it was going to be a free-for-all.
Yeah, it was.
And so that's why they opened the lots at noon, and that's why people were already in line.
Yeah, so they would be there to get their prime spots.
Right. And then Pearl Jam ends up canceling an hour or two later. People already buying T-shirts at the parking lot kiosk.
Yep, the line was ridiculously long for
They had
that
posted
ahead
pictures.
of time.
They had posted pictures of the lines for both to get in and for the merch. This is what I'm saying. It feels really, really hinky to me. It feels really, really sketchy.
Now we know people get sick, things happen.
Right.
Hopefully, for everybody's sake, it is legitimate and that their drummer does get better quickly.
And of course, the people who had lawn passes,
Pretty much get screwed.
rightfully so or not, yeah, they get screwed and they're complaining because this is the end of the season. You know damn well they're not going to reschedule this year. It's going to be probably an early summer 2024 show.
Yeah. And what if
you're going to have to buy a lawn pass for next year?
And what if you're not able to get a lawn pass for next year?
Right. But as other people pointed out, you had a chance to see how many other shows during the year.
Right.
Just because Pearl Jam postponed, if they eventually cancel, whatever, nobody's really going to shed a tear for you. The people that bought tickets for that show and that show alone are the ones that are getting hosed more than lawn pass people are.
Absolutely.
But again, just want to wrap that up. And again, I'm posing the conspiracy theory that this is going to get worse before it gets better. Somebody's going to have to step in and do something. I'm just predicting this. I am just predicting this.
Wait for it.
Because until somebody does, the fans are going to be taken advantage of like they always are until somebody says, no, you can't do this anymore.
Yep.
Kind of like what Adam Silver is doing with the load management, trying to do in the NBA right now with the fines and saying you cannot sit your superstars anymore.
Over and over and over.
Right.
All right, movie time, kids. I will start off with a review of the Netflix film Heart of Stone with Gal Gadot, Jamie Dornan, and Matthias Schweighöfer, also known as Dieter from the Army of Thieves.
Schweighöfer.
So, interesting little film. So, Gadot is an agent for a secret group who's trying to right wrongs. They have the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-predicting computer called the Heart. And she's working with an MI6 group to try and stop an arms dealer. Things get hinky. Turns out one of her teammates on MI6 is not a good guy who's seeking revenge on her group, the Charter. Mass chaos ensues as this guy and another person try to steal the Heart, and halfway decent little action flick for Netflix. Much better than I thought. A little over 2 hours. Decent. It's a solid 2.5. So a lot of the over-the-top effects and action sequences, but still entertaining and fast-paced. Worthwhile.
Yeah, you know the problem I have with Gal Gadot. I can't get over the accent. I can't get over the accent. I have seen too many actors and actresses who can overcome an accent. British actors and actresses who can play American characters and you can't even tell there's any trace of an accent. And Gal Gadot's got that thick Israeli accent, and she had it in Wonder Woman, and it drives me insane. To me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. As beautiful as she is, the minute she starts talking, it's just like screech, screech.
It can be a little overbearing at times, but overall, with everything going on,
let's put it this way. Maybe I'm overstating it a little bit with the nails on the chalkboard thing. I will say this may be a better way to put it. As good looking as she is, her voice is about as unsexy as it gets. It ruins the whole image when you look at her and go, "Oh, hey," and then she starts talking like, "Ooh, hey."
So kind of a Tilly thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Like a Meg
or a
Tilly,
Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher.
Yeah. Just don't talk. Don't talk. There's
Well,
better
there
things
you
to do
go.
with your mouth than talk.
Oh, wow.
I went there.
You went there.
Well, especially with Fran Drescher right now, with
Oh
the way
my
she's
God.
acting with the strike, and she just got reelected, and oh my God, acting like she's some kind of like Julio Cesar, Chavez or
whatever you want to call her.
You know, one of those dictators
Yeah.
from a communist country.
This is
power to the
just
people,
done.
solidarity,
Blah blah blah. All right.
Since I did not have the time this week to watch a movie, yes, I was very, very busy. No excuses, but at the same time, I have excuses. I was very busy. Had to watch the football all weekend, had the Smashing Pumpkins concert. My daughter was in town before she went to France, which she's by now, as you listen to this, already gone over there with the, the pretentious smoking bastards over there. But so I did not get to watch Sisu yet. Hopefully next week I'll have not one but two. I hope to have Sisu and Fast 10 or Fast X.
There you go.
For next week. But in the meantime, I thought it'd be fun to do, and we've done this on occasion, similar situations where the maestro was lazy and didn't get his work done. So
he scrambled and pulled something out of his ass.
Which I am very good at, by the way, yes. My ass is full of great ideas. We're going to do a fall and winter movie preview here for you. Discuss some of the movies coming out here over the next 3 or 4 months.
If they maintain.
Yeah, again, we don't know with the strike. Are we going to see more postponements? We saw Dune Part 2 get pushed back. That was supposed to be out this fall and this winter. But in terms of movies that we were interested in, movies that we might want to see, starts off here coming up on the 22nd with the fourth installment of The Expendables.
Yep, that's definitely one we will be going to see.
Yep. Now I have a feeling that Stallone is a little bit, maybe a cameo in this. Not very much in terms of camera time. I think this has now become more of a
This focuses more on Statham's character Christmas.
Right. But of course, yeah, definitely got to check that out. For me personally, Saw 10. I've seen every movie in the Saw series.
I have to catch up on about the last 6.
Good to see that they're bringing Jigsaw back. Now, this is almost like a prequel.
Yeah.
So
it's a
that's
nice
how they're kind of cheating things a little bit.
But that's okay. You can do that.
Yeah. And especially after the last one, Spiral, with Chris Rock, which was okay, but really didn't feel like a really traditional, normal Saw movie. Yes, I'm talking about traditional, normal when it comes to Saw.
Yeah. No, when we going back, jumping around, Joe Lansdale, the author of Hap and Leonard and other things, put it best. They're my characters. I do not have to write linear. I can put them at any point in their lives to tell a story that I want.
Yep. And we have seen him do that.
Yep. And it's great.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I completely
You do not have to be linear.
That. Right.
Why?
Yeah. So,
And why, if you put a book out a year, why does it have to actually be a year
well,
later?
even you want to look at Lee Child with Reacher. He's jumped back in time
Yeah.
in the past in some of his books where he's shown earlier glimpses of Jack Reacher.
Yep.
And hasn't just consistently kept on with Reacher moving from town to town,
Right.
jumping on a
And
bus, and
it may be a year when he writes a book, but it could be a month or two between Reacher's actual adventure.
right. So
don't pigeonhole yourself as a writer, kids.
Yep.
If you're aspiring to that.
Yeah, so Saw 10 is coming out here in a couple weeks. Then this very interesting sci-fi movie called The Creator. Now, the ads I've seen make it look pretty interesting. Lots of action, it looks like, but if it's that good, why is it coming out in late September?
Right. I think we're seeing the best of it in the previews. I just don't have a lot of high hopes for it.
But now we move on to the Halloween season, of course, when you're going to get a lot of horror movies. Now, Saw jumping the gun maybe a little bit early.
Little bit.
But then we get into early October, and the new Exorcist movie, Believer, the first in a trilogy, is coming out. Doesn't do anything for me. I was never a huge fan of The Exorcist.
I wasn't either. It had its moments, but it was like, okay, whatever. And then all the subsequent ones I could do without. This, like you said, does nothing for me either.
Yeah, now there's some people I've heard, it's a valid point, but you go back to the 70s, to the original Exorcist, and it, in retrospect, the effects look cheesy and silly.
Well, you got to go with what you had at the time.
Right, and now my rebuttal to that, they brought up Jaws. And yes, Bruce the shark doesn't look great, but the movie is so good that you get beyond the fact that, yeah, the shark's fake. If
everything
the movie
else
is made well enough,
everything around
you'll get over it.
Overshadows the flaws.
If the movie is made well enough, you'll get over it. I've seen the exact opposite, where special effects have been absolutely phenomenal and there's no story and the acting is terrible. Yeah. I would rather have a great, well-acted, well-written story with some cheesy special effects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any day of the week.
Put the money into the story, the actors, and the performance.
And Jaws is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
When you've got Roy Scheider and you've got Shaw and you've got Dreyfuss, you know,
it's a great cast.
You're going to
act
need
it
a
well.
big boat. Come on. How awesome is Robert Shaw in that movie as Quint? How awesome is he?
All three of them are brilliant in their roles.
Yeah.
I mean, they had great chemistry in the film too.
And again, that's what makes you overlook the cheesy factor of the fake shark.
Yep.
Now, the only reason I marked this is because this is the movie that's going to financially keep the fall and winter season afloat. This is kind of like the Barbie of the fall and winter.
When
Taylor Swift announced she was going to have a concert movie coming out called the Eras Tour, and all the Swifties went crazy, and it's setting records for pre-sales. Again, Hollywood, despite all the stupid things they do, all the missteps they do with the strikes and the egos, they somehow stumble ass backwards into good luck. This year, they had Super Mario Brothers and Barbie and Oppenheimer saved them. Those three movies. If it wasn't for those three movies,
they would be in the
abject
red.
Failure. Could be one of the worst seasons for movies ever.
And they're not helping themselves by pushing things back.
Because if you look at Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, how they underperformed, miserably. Not to mention the DC movies,
Oh,
even the Marvel movies, with the exception of
nothing.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour concert film, starting a limited run. I believe it's playing like a couple days a week over a month, starting October the 13th, already projected to make over $150 million at the box office.
There you go. The power of the Swift.
Then, of course, we've got the adaptation of the video game Five Nights at Freddy's, which has been long. You want to talk about long gestating.
God, this was supposed to have been out years ago.
Probably a decade ago, at least.
At least.
Finally going to hit the big screen. Modest, not terrible projection, somewhere between 60 and 70 million.
We'll see.
Not bad
Previews
for a low-budget horror movie.
Look,
Yeah. Now, this is going to be on Netflix. It'll be in limited release in theaters, so Netflix can actually put it in for Oscar consideration. This is why Netflix, Apple put these movies out on a few screens, is so they can be recognized for the Oscars, for the Golden Globes. But this one looks really good. David Fincher, number one, you've got me at David Fincher. One
Absolutely.
of the best, if not the best directors out there, along with probably Christopher Nolan. The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender, looks really good.
This could be really intriguing.
Then, of course, if you haven't already figured out in November how we feel about the Marvels, Captain Marvel 2.
Yeah, Freaky Friday in space.
I literally hope this fails miserably. Miserably. Because it looks idiotic.
It looks horrible. It looks poorly acted.
Again, it's another one of these, girl power, girl power. Whatever.
If you have to say that, then you do not have a good movie.
Now, something Dave and I talked about in preparation for this segment, none of these movies are projected. We're going from mid-September all the way through into 2024. None of these movies are projected to make $200 million. What does that say?
That people are not going to the theaters.
All the way through the holiday season, you're not going to have one single movie make $200 million?
That's scary.
Now, here's the first big example that I looked at and said, wow. The new Hunger Games. What is it? The Ballad of Snakes and Songbirds or something like that. Not even projected to make $200 million.
Yep.
No Jennifer Lawrence. No Katniss.
Yeah, you don't have your original characters in there. Why would anybody go see it? I've not seen any of the other ones. I have no desire for this one either.
No, I'm with you. I haven't seen any of them. But then, on November the 17th, we get a pleasant surprise.
A decade plus in the making.
Eli Roth finally building upon the fake movie ad that he had in Grindhouse. And of course, remember, Grindhouse was the double feature with Robert Rodriguez.
Planet Terror.
And then Tarantino's Death
Proof.
And then, of course, they had the ads for Machete.
Which you got early on.
You got two Machetes. And now you're finally getting Thanksgiving. Yes, a serial killer based around
Thanksgiving
holiday. Could go both ways.
Yeah.
Could be really, really good.
Or it could be an absolute piece of crap.
Yeah. All right, so now we've got Wonka coming out in mid-December, the reimagining with Timothée Chalamet as Wonka.
Doesn't do anything as Wonka.
He's a younger, cooler version of Wonka.
We'll see.
And of course the controversy with Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah, that's what
Pissing
you
off Peter
get
Dinklage.
because Dinklage complains about little people getting roles and pigeonholed, and now he complains when they don't get the roles because he's a complete asshat. But as Nick said, why are you doing another Wonka? The Depp one was when you had the perfect Wonka with the crazy gleam in his eye from Gene Wilder.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that you never should have remade to begin with.
Exactly.
And we've talked about that ad nauseum, and how Hollywood runs out of ideas. And what do? They still go ahead and do the remakes and the reboots. Every once in a while it works, so they take that and they run with it.
Yeah, it rarely works. These writers are hacks. That's why they're not getting paid.
I would basically say the rule of thumb should be, if it doesn't involve Denzel Washington, don't do it. Because he was able to be the equalizer.
Right.
And he was able to be, believe it or not, I never thought it would work.
In the Magnificent Seven.
Never thought a remake of the Magnificent Seven would work. And he somehow made it work.
It was, but they didn't try and remake it. It was just a completely different movie.
Right.
They didn't try to redo it. It was just, all right, here's a movie with 7 guys that we're going to call it. It worked beautifully. That was a rarity.
Yep. So then, of course, we're finally, mercifully coming to the end of the DC movie cycle before James Gunn starts taking over. The final movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And I hated Aquaman. Hated it.
I saw part of it, and it was painful. It was painful.
But everybody else seemed to love it, and I'm like, what the hell about this movie do you like? Jason Momoa acting like a doofus. Maybe you like Amber Heard? I like Amber Heard. But again, don't want to mess with her. She's a nut job.
Yeah. So, it's going to probably... who knows?
Again, not projected to make $200 million, whereas the first one made, I believe, almost $350 million.
Yeah.
Another sign of Hollywood failing. Again, if it wasn't for 3 big movies this year, maybe if you want to throw the second Spider-Man animated movie in there. But usually the success is spread out a lot more than it has been this year.
Yeah, and they have not done anything to draw people into the theaters.
No. Then, of course, you got another Netflix movie going to go out in limited release, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. I'm kind of intrigued by that.
We'll see where that leads.
And now we've already gotten us through almost the entire Christmas season, with the exception of Ferrari, Michael Mann's story about Enzo Ferrari.
This intrigues me because the whole Ferrari thing, and then it's Michael Mann. Come on.
Another great director, another guy who if his name's attached to a movie, I will watch it.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Fincher, Nolan, Mann, I will watch it, yeah. And then, of course, we did not mention a couple days earlier the Kerry Von Erich family saga, the wrestling movie, The Iron Claw, will be out on December the 22nd with Zac Efron all buffed out and steroided up. And
well,
that'll be one I'll wait for streaming on, but still.
Well, then you've got the completely jacked and ripped Daniel Radcliffe coming up in Deadpool 3. Speculation he's playing a young Wolverine.
Really? This I had not heard.
Yep, it's out there. He looks as cut and ripped as Jackman did early on.
Oh, God. Is this going to be the transition?
Potentially.
The segue to the next...
That's the speculation.
Launching point for him and for the X-Men?
We'll have to wait and see.
Daniel Radcliffe, really? Boy, he better be good. He better be good. Otherwise, I expect some snarky comments from Wade Wilson.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get those anyway, so
Yeah.
that's...
No, the only things I'd read about Deadpool, I mean, you've obviously got the screenshots out there with Wolverine in his classic yellow outfit.
Yep.
And then people are saying it plays like a Midnight Run type of road trip movie.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, but again, I'm scared to death that's going to get pushed back too. That should be
They're
out within
pushing
the first 3 or 4 months of 2024.
It's insane. So we'll see what we get.
Yes, we're not pushing back though. Here, we got one segment left, wrapping things up with a little bit of TV and streaming, and then your Uncle Dave will get to play Dumbass or Not in the entertainment world. So one final segment left, kids. Hang out for just a few more minutes with us. Your Saturday morning hangover cure. We'll be right back.
Mwah.
Are you tired of getting body slammed by the mainstream sports media? Are you sick of their lame trash talk? Check out Sports Frenzy 2.0 with a tag team of the Maestro and the Conquistador. Pile drive those jackasses into submission. Available on all major podcast hosts, including Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. Kev Dave slap a figure 4 on all the major sports networks who lie, kiss ass, and refuse to take names. New episodes drop every Thursday with new weekend edition episodes every Saturday. And that's the bottom line, 'cause Sports Frenzy said so. All right, kids, time to wrap this puppy up so you can move on with your life and we can move on with ours. Here on Saturday morning, September the 16th, 2023. He's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
A little bit of TV and streaming to talk about, then a moment of silence, and your Uncle Dave will get to regale you with his perception into who are dumbasses and who are not.
I do have a badass of the week as well.
Oh, I do too. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's coming up.
All right, TV and streaming, not a lot to discuss, at least on my end, outside of the 8th episode of Season 4 of Tacoma FD. Again, another great episode involving
the barbecue,
dry chicken,
party.
Inside towels,
outside towels,
and the Proby's mom being a whore.
She was hot.
Okay, yeah, but why is Eddie Panizzi? I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
You saw them walking up with Proby's mom, and he's like, "Yeah, Panizzi's nailing her by the end of the episode."
Yeah, absolutely.
You just saw her and knew what was going to happen because it's what happens.
He's Eddie Panizzi.
Hey.
But again, another very entertaining, very fun episode. Although I would have liked, this is kind of like a pet peeve of mine. I'm not a big fan of episodes where one character gets picked on and picked on and picked on without getting his or her revenge.
Right.
I would have preferred to see the Proby at one point stand up and say, "Hey, why don't you guys all go fuck off? I'm about done taking your shit."
Exactly. This is my day off. You promised me.
Yeah.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
It goes on a little too long with the abuse.
Yeah. It was a little overboard on that regard.
Guard the chicken. Guard the towels. Go get the towels.
Watch the fireworks.
Yep. Don't let the chief drink. Let the chief drink this. But still a fun episode in the end. Still a fun episode.
It's been a very good season.
Well, we can't leave the chief like that. The raccoons will get to him. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't poke the bear.
Yeah. So,
that's all right, kid. He won't remember that either.
Hopefully at least 3 or 4 more.
God, we can only hope. So good. So good. All right.
Now, I have a couple little news items in TV and streaming.
Yep.
One we talked about earlier.
Well, I'm just thrilled on Netflix. We finally have season 3 of Ragnarok, the Norwegian series about a modern day Thor taking on the giants. So, watch the first episode, picks up very well where the other left off. It's fun, something different, and entertaining.
And then, of course, coming up early in 2024, something we talked about heading to our concert this past weekend that I knew nothing about. But AMC is going to have a 6-episode limited series starring Clive Owen as Sam Spade.
That's intriguing.
Retired and in France. The series will be called Monsieur Spade.
Monsieur Spade.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I've always thought that Clive Owen would have been a very worthy Bond. Earlier, younger Clive Owen would have been pretty cool as James Bond.
Definitely.
So it'll be interesting to see him.
Spade, that
and
intrigues
this goes
me.
back to what we were talking about earlier with Gal Gadot. Clive Owen, can he get rid of the British accent and do an American accent? Because Spade's not British.
No, he is not. So we'll see how that runs out.
Yep.
Maybe he picks up a French accent. Oui, oui.
Oui, oui, poo, poo. Now, on the negative side, Rolling Stone turned on one of their own, in my humble opinion, where they put out an article quoting numerous former employees saying that The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon was a toxic workplace. Now, Jerry Seinfeld has come out and said that the instances where he is involved are completely false, that he did not see the alleged abuse.
Yeah, it's Rolling Stone trying to generate readership.
It's a rag. But now, do I wholeheartedly dismiss?
Not necessarily.
No, because you're talking about Hollywood celebrities. And I'm sure 95%
who have egos
of them,
as it
95% of them are asshats. So
there you go.
And they will turn on their own, as you're seeing with Drew Barrymore wanting to go back to do her talk show.
Who is my badass of the week? Drew Barrymore standing up to these egomaniacal people, wanting to continue her show, but she's getting raked over the coals because 3 of her writers, at least, belong to the Writers Guild. But what about the writers who are not part of the guild, who are getting nothing? They deserve to be able to continue to work when they're not part of this whole thing. They're being taken advantage of and not being able to earn a living because of this. Good for her. Get some new content out there. Support those who are not part of the guild. Suck it. And unfortunately, she'd been dropped as the host of the National Book Awards because a few writers were up in arms. Oh, as writers, we all have to stand together. Balls. So go, Drew. Get your show up and running. F them all.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. So for my Clint Eastwood badass of the week, I'm going to go back to our little fall and winter movie preview. And yes, I'm going to go back to Saw 10. Why? Because they're going to take this twisted, violent movie series, and they've done this in the past. They have around a lot of the showings for the upcoming movie a blood drive. This is the Saw blood drive, which they will have people, I don't know if they're going to have bloodmobiles outside the theaters or what they're going to do, but they're taking the demented Saw movies and turning them in a way into something good.
That is
in
very
that they
cool.
are having at selected screenings in selected cities blood drives. And again, this is something they've done before, but I think not enough people are aware of the fact that
this takes place.
a bloody, disgusting horror movie and the creators behind it and the producers are actually trying to do good with this.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So there are a couple limited edition movie posters out there that highlight the fact that there will be a blood drive coinciding with the opening of Saw 10.
Yep. Funny you should mention Blood Drive. It's a shame we never got season 2.
Great show. Great show. Can't get it on DVD or Blu-ray. I don't even know if you can get it on demand, buy it digitally, but what? And it, of course,
it was
starred
fun.
Alan Rickson, who is now Reacher.
Yep. So,
and of
there
course,
you go.
I can't remember her name. The female actress ended up being on Animal Kingdom.
Yep. Ochoa?
That could be, yeah.
I can't think of her first name.
But what a creative series beyond belief.
Unbelievable.
The whole post-apocalyptic thing where every episode kind of was an homage to a different genre of action or horror movie.
Yep. It's a car race across country and the cars run on blood.
Awesome stuff.
So good. So Corman-esque.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely a Roger Corman.
Yeah, an homage to Roger Corman. Yes. All right, one moment of silence just happened here within the last day or two. If you're a fan of old school cop shows, old school detective shows from the 70s into the early 80s, I still don't think you know the guy's name, but that's what we're here for. Edward Hume passed away. Edward Hume was the developer, creator for The Streets of San Francisco, of course.
Carl Malden.
Michael Douglas. Cannon.
Yeah, good stuff.
And, of course, Buddy Ebsen in Barnaby Jones. Very good shows. Again, from that golden era when we had Beretta, Starsky and Hutch, Hawaii Five-0, Rockford Files.
Mannix.
Yep. So Edward Hume was, of course, responsible for some of the greats during that time. All right, kids, you know what time it is? I've alluded to it.
It's time to get ill?
I am not licensed to ill, Dave. Have I been ill? Sure. I've been verklempt. I've been a little stuffy, yeah.
Could it be
America's favorite game show?
Woohoo!
Dumbass or not? 4 contestants this week. Your judge, the conquistador, your Uncle Dave, will tell you whether or not these people, these individuals, are dumbasses or not.
Let us begin.
Okay, I'm going to give you a softball. I'm going to give you the easiest of the easy. All I'm going to say is this. At 83 years old, Nancy Pelosi is running for re-election in 2024.
And the dumbasses in California are going to elect her again. This is why we need age and term limits for our government. Absolutely ridiculous, stupid, dumbass decision.
Yeah, and even though I love picking on Nancy Pelosi because she is just a shrew and a bitch, I can say the same thing about Mitch McConnell. I can say the same thing about Joe Biden. There are plenty. Feinstein.
Oh, God, yeah.
There are plenty who are way beyond their years in terms of mental capacity who should not have any say in how people live their lives.
Yeah, and what's Pelosi running on? We need to bring California way of life to everyone. No, we don't. You out of touch shrew. You want homelessness running rampant You want to tax everybody out of their homes? Screw you and your stupidity.
All right, number 2. Of course,
You said number 2.
poo-poo, wee-wee. We know that Danny Masterson, of course, formerly of that 70s show, was sentenced to 30 years in prison for multiple rapes. But the true dumbasses who had to come out and apologize are his castmates on that 70s show, particularly Ashton Kutcher and his wife Mila Kunis, as they had written letters to the judge saying how great of a friend and great of a guy Masterson was, even getting to the point with Kutcher where he was saying, you really shouldn't even put him in jail.
Yeah, that was just bad form on their part all around.
And then, of course, to have to do a video apology. We stand with the victims.
No,
Well,
you don't. If you
not-
stood with the victims, you wouldn't have written the letters. Dumbasses, dumbasses, dumbasses.
All right, now we got 2 more left. A couple. Now, these first 2 we had talked about. We do actually have to talk off mic.
Yes, we have to prep.
Yes, and plus we talk when we're going to concerts. So these things will come up. So sometimes I have a feel for how Dave is going to go. But these 2 are new. These 2 I don't think he knows about. So this is where we see if we go 4 for 4 this week. We're going to go across the pond, Dave. We're going over to jolly old England, to the BBC.
BBC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever.
The BBC recently hired their first, get this, disinformation correspondent. That's not the whole story, though.
Disinformation correspondent.
Well, you know, our government tried to bring in a disinformation czar. Remember how well that went?
Yeah, it didn't.
You know, somebody who's supposed to go on social media and tell Google and Facebook and Twitter, this is a lie, take it off right now, take it down, you can't post this, it's a lie. So the BBC has their first disinformation correspondent. Her name is Mariana Spring. Guess what? Turns out she lied on her resume.
Oh my God.
It was found that she lied on her resume when applying for a job before she got this gig as the disinformation correspondent for
Dumbass,
the BBC.
you don't lie on your resume. Everybody who does gets caught.
George O'Leary.
That's who I was going.
Notre Dame's head football coach for what, a week?
Yeah, if that.
Finally. Now we know we've talked about the strike and we've talked about how there's a lack of movies out there, but there are still movies floating around out there. And this is, of course, getting into award season.
Who nobody really gives a rat's ass about, except for maybe 10% of the population.
So you got
outside of Hollywood.
You got all those pretentious people out there, you know, shopping their pretentious movies when they're not picketing with Fran Drescher. So at the Venice Film Festival recently, you remember Mads Mikkelsen? Yes. Awesome actor who played Hannibal.
Yep, played Le Chiffre.
In the 3 seasons, right?
Yeah, 3 seasons of Hannibal, Le Chiffre in Casino Royale.
Yes. So he's got a new movie coming out. And at the Venice Film Festival, he and the director of this movie, it's called The Promised Land. The movie is set, let me give you a little background here. The movie is set in Denmark in the 1750s. Okay?
Okay.
So at the Venice Film Festival, as they are fielding questions from the press, a reporter steps up and asks, are you worried about the fact that you don't have enough diversity in your cast, specifically minorities?
What the fuck kind of question is that? Denmark in the 1750s is all white. That has got to be the biggest dumbass question ever asked.
And here's the funny thing about it.
Oh my God.
Is for the most part, Mickelson and the director responded like that. But believe it or not, the movie still has one African American in it. And the director basically said, yeah, we're aware of the strict standards now that Hollywood's imposing on us. So we did as much research as we could and found that there was one. And we've got that person in our movie.
You know, that's pathetic that they have to have that set as a standard for a film.
Yeah, because they set new standards now where you will not be considered for the Oscars or the Golden Globes if you do not meet the standards of diversity.
Some films, you cannot meet those standards because the story does not warrant it.
Well, you and I have talked about the fact you specifically have to deal with the issue of censorship every day in your job. And we've talked about the fact that we hate censorship. That's why we curse,
Absolutely.
we swear, we tell you how we really feel. And if you don't like it, you kiss our ass, you move on to another podcast. Because we don't believe in censoring ourselves. We don't believe in censoring other people. But Hollywood
is censoring
for how they are supposed to be the great and grand storytellers of all time, throughout the years, the decades, the centuries, seem to be the ones that love to censor. Because
and
for you to tell
limitations,
right, for you to tell somebody who wants to tell a story or write a book,
that you have to do this, you have to do that,
you do not impede the creative process at all.
That goes against everything of creativity, First Amendment, everything else. You cannot do that.
And again, controversial. I don't care if you people like it or not. I would just like to know, do they hold the same standards to a movie with a all-black cast? Do they say, oh, there's no white people in here, this movie's not eligible? Because
it'd be interesting to see,
it's an all-black
wouldn't it?
cast. You can't do that. Yeah, guaranteed. No. They are not going to shun that movie. They're not going to penalize that movie because they're hypocrites. They're hypocrites, and as much as they like to think they're not, they're racist. They're racists.
And bigots.
Yep. They're worse than anybody walking around today among us. They are the worst of the worst. I've said it. I'll stick by it, and I'm not apologizing for it.
Nope, not at all.
What I am going to apologize for is the fact that we have to say sayonara, au revoir, arrivederci.
So long, farewell.
Happy trails.
Happy frickin' trails.
Your Uncle Dave and your Uncle Kev have got to call it a night, wrap this puppy up because some of us have to work.
Yep. Here it is, 1:45. As we wrap
Thursday
this up.
the 14th.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You got the best of us. We're going to be struggling
dog
at work
ass
tomorrow.
Tired tomorrow, but there you go.
We did it all for you. We did it for you because we care about you, unlike Hollywood.
That's right. So until then, he's Kev.
He's Dave.
We're Sports Frenzy 2.0. Enjoy the weekend.
Peace out, kids.